Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are finally there. It is the week when the 2023 season of the Overwatch League officially begins. No more Pro-Am, no more preseason, none of that. Full official Overwatch League matches kick off this week. And so today I thought it would be a good time to give out some of my predictions for the 2023 season. I have a few of them here. I think 7 predictions that I'm going to give. I give them before every season, and then I like to look back on them and kind of see whether or not I was right or wrong to have those predictions. So this will be fun. This will be a good time to kind of just talk about all of the new pieces, all the new players. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. So let's jump in and let's go through my predictions. Let's start with my best new home prediction, which goes to a player who spent the 2022 season with one team and now goes into 2023 with a different team. Exclusively, specifically an Overwatch League player, so no veterans or anything like that. This is someone who made a move from one team to another. Quite a lot of them this offseason, obviously. Major rebuilds from Houston, from Boston, from Atlanta, the Gladiators, Vancouver. So lots of teams made a ton of moves this offseason. And so really there's a ton of options for this one to kind of make the guess and the prediction for. But I am going to predict that the player who has the most success in their new home is Lip, of course, now with the Atlanta Reign, formerly with the Shanghai Dragons. I think Lip's one of the best players in the league for several years now. I think he'll still be a very, very good player, a really important piece to his team's success with the Reign. I think the Reign look very, very good, just kind of what we've seen from them so far. So I want to shout out Lip, as I think he's probably going to be one of the top players in the league this season, and feel pretty good on him as the player who's going to have the best new home this season. My prediction for Comeback Player of the Year. This is a very interesting year for this award, because if you look around the league, there's honestly more returning players who weren't in the league last year than I would have expected with the move to Overwatch 2. You have guys like Birdring, FD God, 20, just to name a few. Gargoyle, right? There's a number of players who kind of didn't play in the league last year that are coming back into the league this year. You also have guys who didn't have great years last year, who maybe could have a good year last year, similar to RotY had last year, where he had a really, really good year last year. Role star year, no one really expected that out of him. So you could look around the league and try to find players that could fit that bill. It's always tough to kind of predict who those players might be, but that's always kind of one of those two camps is where it falls. But for me, I am going to predict that the Comeback Player of the Year, someone who I didn't mention before, you may have noticed, I'm going to predict that the Comeback Player of the Year is Ben Best. I really, really liked what I saw from him in the Pro-Am. I thought he played phenomenally in the Pro-Am. I thought he looked really, really good. And considering he wasn't in the league, not just last year, but the year before that as well, he hasn't been in the league the past 2 seasons, and comes back into the league and looks honestly better than he did when we last saw him, to me is a huge, huge, huge boon for him as a player and why I'm having him here. I think a lot of people are probably going to predict Birdring or say Birdring, but I don't think Birdring should be on this list. Even if he's one of the best damage players in the league, he looked really good in 2021. He arguably left 2021 as the best season of his career. So to me, Ben Best is the player to watch as Comeback Player of the Year. Like I said, I thought he looked really good in the Pro-Am. I thought he played very well, and so I'm excited to see him now with the Justice and what he's able to do on that team, because it was very interesting last year, and I think that he is one of my kind of players to watch for the 2023 season, just in general, not even just as a Comeback Player of the Year. I think he's got an interesting play style, I think he's got an interesting story, and definitely one that I'm excited to see how it unfolds this year. Next, let's go with who I think will win Coach of the Year. This is a really tough one for me. I think the funny thing is that Krusty has never won this award, even though he's arguably the best coach in the history of Overwatch. The award didn't exist in 2018 or 2019, when he realistically would have won it, being 2019. Then, of course, 2020 went to Moon, 2020 went to Rush, last year went to Christopher. So Krusty's never won it. I think it's funny. I don't think he will win it. I think it's the idea of, like, he's the coach of the year every year, so, like, he doesn't really need to win it. I think you kind of have to do something special and kind of impress people in a way that Krusty doesn't really impress people anymore because everyone's just kind of used to it from him. So as much as I would love to see Krusty get an award for the first time, I don't think he will. I think it'll go to a coach who does one of two things: either turns a team around that didn't have a great year last year, or a coach who's able to take a team to the top of the league through a really, really, really kind of dominant fashion. And that is why this is such a hard one to pick, because I was very, very close to picking Gator, because I rate the Atlanta Reign very, very highly, and I think they'll be good. But after the Pro-Am, and after considering what happened last season, and seeing what that roster looks like now, I am going to give the Coach of the Year prediction to Gunba of the Florida Mayhem. I really liked what we saw from them in the Pro-Am. I thought they played very, very, very well in the Pro-Am, and I thought that their kind of style of play, considering the fact that that is a roster that is predominantly Korean, with a Western flex support and a Western damage dealer and, you know, a Western head coach, seeing them kind of make stuff work in a very, very, very cohesive way was really impressive. And I think if the Mayhem keep up that momentum throughout the majority of the season, if not the entirety of the season, absolutely I think Gunba should be one of the locks to win that Coach of the Year award. He's a really, really good coach, and seeing what he was able to do so far already, both last year and already in the Pro-Am, I think Gunba probably should be one of the front runners to win it. Like I said, I think Hawk is probably the other guy on my watch list, and Krusty if the Shock are as good as you think they're going to be. Neko if the Outlaws are really good. But I think those are kind of the places that I look and I see a bunch of talent. I also think Kasaurus is a good shout. I thought the Defiance win over the Uprising was predominantly due to a really good coaching job from Kasaurus. And maybe it was more on the players than it was Kasaurus, but to me that looked like a situation where the Defiant just outcoached the Uprising. That's why they were able to walk away with the win. So there's a lot of really good coaches this year. A lot of people I think could get it, but I have a feeling this is Gunba's year to take home that Coach of the Year award. Next is my prediction for Rookie of the Year. This is a tough one. Historically, Rookie of the Year is a pretty damage dealer-dominated award. It was Hawksall in 2019, it was Pelican in 2021, and it was Proper last year. The only exception was 2020, where it went to Alarm. A lot of people think the frontrunner is Max. I'm not too sure. We saw a lot of Junbin in the Pro-Am, so I'm a little hesitant to say Max wins. I'm also hesitant to say Junbin wins because I think the two of them are going to split a lot of time, and I think that hurts either one of their chances of becoming Rookie of the Year. I think, unless it's one of those things where just one of them is so good they bench the other and they're good on everything, then maybe, but I think it's tough for either one of them to get it. Usually the Rookie of the Year is a good player on one of the best teams in the league. Alarm, once again, being the exception. Every other Rookie of the Year got second place in their tournament, right? In their playoffs. Hawksall and Titans, they got second. Pelican and the Reign, they got second. And last year, Proper on the Shock, they got second. So you have to expect it to be on a pretty good team, at least traditionally. So that is also why it's difficult, because there's not a ton of really great rookies this year. I think Heesang is a possibility. I'm a little hesitant to say Heesang as well, just because I think with the way the Shock are most likely going to play, I think Heesang's going to be playing second fiddle to Proper way too much for him to really be the kind of standout player on that team. I guess it doesn't have to be the standout player on the team; it's just be the standout rookie. But I'm gonna throw it to a bit of a wild card pick, maybe one that people don't really expect, and I'm gonna say Rookie of the Year for 2023 is Sugar Free of the Vancouver Titans. He looked really, really good in the Pro-Am. I think there's a good chance We see him in some capacity in a lot of the tournaments this year. I think that he is just a very, very good player. I think he's shown a ton of really great things so far this year. And so, yeah, I'm going to say that he is the guy who gets it done and wins Rookie of the Year for the 2023 season. Bit of a wild card pick, like I said, maybe, but I think it's pretty good. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to get it. So that's my prediction there for that one. Before I do MVP, I want to do a couple of team awards based on kind of total teams that I think will do pretty well this season. The first one I'm going to do is Most Improved Team. The past couple of years, I tried to predict what region will be the best. It's a stupid thing to predict this year because we all know that the Western region is better this year, just across the board. The Eastern region is kind of in shambles, so I decided to pass on doing that one this year, and instead I'm doing Most Improved Team. Basically, which team do I think will have the most noticeable improvement from last year in terms of kind of where they finished last season, how they kind of did as a whole last season, to this season, what do I think is that team? I think there's two possible options. I think in the East, it's very possible that it's the Hangzhou Spark. They obviously were a top 4 team in the East last year, but I think they look really, really good. I think that their roster looks really solid. I think they could be one of the better teams in the region. But to me, the Eastern region is such in shambles in general that being the best team in the East, what does it really tell you? And I don't really think they are a team that I would predict to win the title, so it gets a little bit tricky. The team I am going to give it to is the Boston Uprising, because I thought the Uprising played very, very well in the majority of the Pro-Am tournament. Obviously, they had a rough outing against the Toronto Defiant, but overall, they're a very, very good team, and I think that they have a really good opportunity in front of them this season to become one of the better teams in the league. Tons of veteran guys, tons of experience there. I think they're going to be a really hard team to beat no matter what. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They made the play-in tournament, didn't do anything there. Didn't make any tournaments last year. To me, they're a perennial pick. Like they should be one of the teams that is punching for not just tournaments, but the playoffs and the grand finals. So I'm going to say they're probably the most improved team for 2023. Just based on what we've seen from them so far, they are the team that I think will take it all. Next, my prediction for the champions of the 2023 season of the Overwatch League before I move over to MVP, which I think a lot of people are kind of most curious about. This year is a really close year, and I talked about this in my Western Region Power Rankings. It's really, really close at the top. There's about 7 teams in the West that are really, really competitive. Plus, I think there's a couple teams in the East who have a shot, depending on what metas are and whatnot, where they just have talent that does look to me like pretty capable. So it's tough when you try to kind of make a prediction for who's going to win the whole thing. But despite my power rankings and where I placed teams in the power rankings, I don't necessarily think that the power rankings are the only thing to go off of. I think there's a lot more to teams and their placements than what the power rankings tell you. And right now, I am feeling the most confident in the San Francisco Shock to win the whole season this year. They were second last year. They were one map away from winning the grand finals. I think I think they've improved their roster going into this year. I really like Heesang and Proper as a duo. I would like to see them get another damage dealer, but this is a season-long prediction. And I think if this team is struggling in the hit scan department or struggling somewhere in the roster, they'll make a move. They'll sign somebody. I've said this before. I think the San Francisco Shock are the best team when it comes to making mid-season additions. Every time they sign someone in the middle of the season, it's a good move. It's an impactful move. So if they're having issues there, I have no doubt they'll sign someone who'll come in and be an impact player. It was Striker last year. It was Twilight in 2020. It was Moth in 2018. So they've always added people kind of where they need to. They're one of the best teams at scouting talent, bringing in talent to kind of have impact. So I do feel really, really good about them. And I just think that Krusty's such a good coach. They were so close last year. And I think that when you look at where this team is now, I just feel better about them. I love the support line. I really like what they have in the tank line. They're one of the few teams that I think has 2 really good tanks. And even though I think that Heesang has not looked his best yet, I still think he'll get better this season. And I think come playoff time, the Shock are going to be a really, really good team and a really, really, really hard out for any team. No team is going to easily beat the Shock. So they are my prediction for the team that will be champions in 2023. I feel like it's a pretty easy prediction, right? They're 2-time champions. They've made 3 grand finals. They're one of the best teams in the league, arguably the best team ever. Not even arguable at this point, I would say. So, it's not much of a shocker, I think, but no pun intended. But I just have to go with them because I genuinely think they are the team to beat this year, and I think they're going to win when all is said and done. Finally, MVP. Who do I think is going to win MVP in 2023? Last year, I believe I predicted Lip. That did not happen, of course. Shanghai had a bit of a rough year last year, and I didn't expect Proper to have that gargantuan of an impact. I knew he'd be good. I didn't think he would be that good last season, but he was. So maybe he wins it again this year if he has that bit much of an a performance. I tend to think for him to win it again, he has to do something greater than what he did last year. And if they win something, obviously if they continue to win, if they win the midseason tournament, if they go undefeated throughout pretty much the entire season, or go undefeated the entire season, win the midseason tournament, get to the playoffs undefeated, yeah, they're probably gonna be looking at Proper again as MVP. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's too competitive this year for that to happen. And so I have my eyes on the team that I think is going to be turning a lot of heads, and I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this team this year. And that's the Atlanta Reign. I'm going back-to-back with Lip. I think Lip really is the player to watch this year. He has never won MVP despite being, I think, second in 2021 and arguably MVP for a lot of people on that Dragons roster in 2020. He wasn't mine. I think 2021 was the year he really kind of showed up. But he's that kind of player now where you look at what he did on Shanghai. That roster was so good. I see why a lot of people kind of struggle to pick any one individual player from that team. Ultimately, Fleta got it in 2020, but in 2021, they were so dominant. It's hard to say someone's MVP when you're kind of the best at every role. And Lee had such a good season in 2021. It kind of made sense if you had to go between the two of them. Do I give it to the team that's so good everywhere, or do it to the team where Lee is doing all of this stuff while also like hard carrying a gargantuan amount? So I get it. Why Lip did not get it in 2021, and I don't think he deserved it last year. I think that obviously it was a clear reason why Proper won that. This year I think is different because now he's in a new team, right? He's in a new conference, he's in a new region. I think the Western region is way more competitive than the Eastern region is. That's also part of why I think you couldn't really give it to him last year because the Eastern region just wasn't that good. Now you have Lip in the better region. We saw him play really, really well in the playoffs. He played really well in the Pro-Am. We know Lip is still an incredible player. We know he's still one of the best in the league. We know he's going to bring kind of incredible level performances consistently. So I feel pretty good that he will still be the guy for the 2023 season. I still think he's going to be doing a lot of things. I think that there's a very real possibility that we see Lip kind of start pounding early on, and we start seeing him, beat players like Proper, players like Merritt, players like Happy, players like Birdring, and it's like, okay, Lip is here, right? Lip is the guy. He is the DPS player to beat this year. And that's kind of what I think about Lip. I think right now the team around him is really, really good. I think they understand how to play around him. You have really good supports, you have some good tanks, and you have a really good duo in Stalker. So I really do think this is Lip's year. If he doesn't get it this year, I don't think he will get it at any other point in his career. So this, for me, is the ride or die Lip year. Lip, baby, bring it home. That is my MVP pick for 2023. That is all for this video for today. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Where you agree with me, where you disagree with me. If you agree with me at all, let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. And, of course, your support means a lot for the channel. That's going to be all from me for today. Thank you all so much once again. I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.